So tonight we're here to talk a bit about Nightshift NYC, our new book from the University of California Press. We spent a year up all night interviewing all kinds of folks that you'll hear a little bit from tonight. Waiters, waitresses, ferry boat captains, taxi drivers, subway conductors, all manner of folk. And we've divided the book basically along professions. Different chapters would focus on different professions. Some have more than one person, some feature just one person. And so tonight you'll hear a smattering from various chapters as we go through, and then we can take some questions as well. What you're going to hear first is from the prologue. It's one of the only bits of the book where we are in the first person in the narrative. Most of the book is third person narrative, mostly because after doing this a few months we realized how horribly difficult it is to do the night shift. And these folks who do this day in and day out, or I should say night in and night out for years and sometimes decades, we felt disingenuous putting ourselves in the first person in the rest of this book, and we really wanted to give them the space and sort of all the attention in the rest of the book. But in the prologue and in the epilogue, we do talk a little bit about what it was like for us to do this work. So this is from the beginning of the book. It gives you a little bit of a flavor of what it was like when we were first starting out in doing this research 2 years ago now. It's Memorial Day 2006, or it was on Monday. Now it's technically 2 a.m. on Tuesday, but it's hard to keep track of the days. We're on the corner of 110th Street and Lexington Avenue in East Harlem, just a few blocks from our apartment, watching as a dozen or so Department of Sanitation workers take a break. Though we've been sticking close to a night shift schedule for a few weeks now, we have not adjusted. We don't know it yet, but in the year to come it will not get any easier. The unnatural hues of artificial light in delis, diners, train stations, and hospitals will sap whatever energy we get from unhealthy doses of caffeine. Eating meals after midnight will leave us sluggish and soft. We won't see many of our friends for weeks at a time, unable to accommodate their day shift schedules. For now, we are simply tired, but we manage to strike up a conversation. One of the sanitation workers stands near the plexiglass night window of Dunkin' Donuts, waiting for his hot chocolate. He works midnight to 8, a pretty typical night shift schedule, but he doesn't drink coffee to stay awake. This has more caffeine than coffee, he says, pointing to a steaming hot chocolate. He's been a garbologist, he says, for 3 years, but still lacks seniority. He's retired, actually, from a day job. He rolled his pension into the Department of Sanitation. It's a challenge, he admits, to go from a shirt and tie to manual labor. He could work in the Department of Sanitation garage, he says, but you make more money collecting. We stand chatting for a few more minutes while the rest of the sanitation workers gather in loose clusters around the idling trucks across the street. We explain our project, a book on night shift workers in New York City. Since moving to New York in 1999, we've noticed the hum of life after dark, even in our neighborhood. There's the laundromat down the street that stays open 24 hours, mostly so that a small crew of undocumented Mexican women can wash and dry towels from a downtown sports club. And there's an all-night auto repair shop on the next block, run by a tight-knit group of West Africans who service the gypsy cabs driven by their countrymen. There's even a nearby deli, or bodega, as they're known in these parts, that leaves a recent Yemeni immigrant locked inside each night to transact business through a small window until dawn. As newcomers to the city, we experienced these as curiosities, fascinating bits of the New York night. But we were writers and social scientists, and our individual work brought us into contact quite incidentally with more and more of those who worked the night shift. We began to see the contours of a joint project. We would immerse ourselves in the night shift, participate in and observe a diverse cross-section of after-hours employment. We would explore the motivations and implications of an inverted schedule and try to experience it firsthand. A few weeks in, and 2 a.m. was still a brick wall of fatigue. The garbologist smiles. He assures us we'll get used to the hours, then hurries back to his truck. His break is over. As the trucks rumble into gear, we descend into the subway and out into the city. So that just gives you a little bit of a flavor of what it was like to do the work in the beginning, especially when we were still naive and new to the work.